Hello and welcome to episode 226 of my podcast all about knitting and crochet and my yarn shop here in Wiesbaden, Germany. I'm Kiko and today is April 1st, 2024. And today I'm wearing something old and something fairly new. And the old piece is the big scarf I'm wearing. And I call the project Mega Scarf number 2 on Ravelry. I used to have another one that was comparable to this one, but I gave it away, so I don't have it anymore. I knit the scarf on 10mm needles. I used really big yarn, and it turned out to be fairly big. So it's quite long, it's quite wide, and I love it. It's beautiful and warm. The pattern that I used had called for some yarn that you use 2 different colors of, and then you would switch the different colors. But I didn't want to use different colors. I wanted to use different yarns. So one yarn I used is this, I think it was Lana Grossa yarn, and it already has several colors in itself. So there are sort of stripes in there. And this was a very thick yarn, so it didn't have a lot of yardage. So from here to here, that was one 50-gram ball. And I just always knit until the 50 grams were gone. And then I used this yarn, which was a huge 200-gram mohair mix yarn by Rico, I think. It was one of the yarns that we used to sell in the yarn shop where I worked. And I held this yarn double, so it matched the other yarn. And then I would just repeat the same number of rows that I did with one ball. I repeated in this yarn, and then I knit another 50-gram ball in the Lana Grossa yarn, and then I used the mohair yarn again, and that's just what I did for the whole scarf. The mohair yarn itself was also several colors, so if I had used it by itself, it would have sort of come out stripy, but because I held it double, and I just used did so many rows here and there, it's not so obvious. But I think if I hold it like this, are you able to see that there are different colors? I don't know, it's hard to see. But anyway, I thought the 2 yarns worked together nicely, and I wanted a really big, warm scarf, and that's what I made. And by the way, it's so old. It does have a Ravelry page, but I did not put the dates when I started and finished the project, but I created the project page in 2012. So this scarf is at least 12 years old. I still love it. Yep, and I'm wearing it together with this pullover. This is the Dreamcatcher pullover. The pattern in the book is called Dreamcatcher, and I used a colorful 8-ply sock yarn as the main color, and I used a different 8-ply sock yarn by Opal as one of the contrast colors, and then I used a single color red. That's a 4-ply yarn that I held double, so it would be the same thickness as the other 2 yarns, and then I knit this 3-color pattern with a lot more than 3 colors. And I remember that the yarn, so the sleeves usually give you an idea what the yarn would look like if you knit socks. But as it's called pullover and sock yarn, I like to knit pullovers. But in the front and back, the stripes came up completely differently. And I quite like the small green and blue stripe. The green and turquoise stripes. And I like these blue bits that go like this. But I wasn't too happy about the purpley colors collecting at different places and not being in other places. So that was a bit weird. But it's a risk that you run when you knit pullovers with this kind of yarn. And I don't really mind too much. And I'm very happy with the yoke, with the stranded color work. The pattern is not very obvious except for the red part. That stands out quite clearly because that's a solid color. But I still like it a lot. I forgot what the book is called, but I'll link it underneath the video. There you can see the short rows that shape the pullover so that the neck is higher than the front. Really happy with how that worked out and how that sits. And happy with that pullover. So I knit that. I started it at the end of 2022, and I think I finished in March last year. So this is only a year old. That still counts as one of the newer pullovers. Yep. So that's what I'm wearing. Then on to finished objects. I have 2 finished objects. And again, I did not cast on anything new. Really proud of myself. Part of the reason is that I couldn't decide which project to start first. And also, I'm expecting a new pattern from the Sock Madness to drop anytime now, because the last round was supposed to run until today, but all the spots were filled on Saturday already. But everybody was quite sure they wouldn't start the round on Easter Sunday. So, but today or tomorrow, I'm pretty sure the next pattern will drop. And sometime this week, I will start another pair of socks. But yeah, but first to my finished objects. I have 2 finished objects, a big one and a small one. I'll show you the big one first because that's the older project. And that's my crochet pullover Whispering Pines. So the pattern is from this book, Crocheting Favorite Pullovers. I think the English title was a bit different. I'll link it underneath. It does not only have pullovers, it also has cardigans. I think I showed the book in more detail when I started the pullover. I just quickly wanted to show you what the original looks like, because I certainly changed a lot of things. So this is what the pullover looks like in the book. It's just one color and it has quite a big neckline, and the sleeves look a bit wider than they look on mine. So if you look closely, you can see that the neck is quite wide and the sleeve looks fairly wide. But I like the pullover a lot. I like the stitch pattern, and so I decided to, I'm showing you the wrong pullover. That's why the sleeves look different. Oh, I did not prepare that well. Sorry about that, but you saw that pullover. That's a nice one too. Maybe I'll do that at some point. But where's the pullover that I'm crocheting? It's called Whispering Pines. That should give me a hint as to which one it is. I lost it. It's not in the book anymore. No, it must be in the book. I will find it at some point. I can find all the... Whispering Pines. There we go. Yeah, it looks completely different. Especially as there's supposed to be some ribbing at all the edges that I'm not putting. So the neckline is, of course, a lot smaller. You can sort of see that it's a raglan, and you can see the stitch pattern. And that was what drew me to the project. That and the fact that it was a raglan, a top-down raglan. And it's not a solid color, so it's sort of a speckly yarn. A color with speckles, that's what I'm trying to say. Anyway, back to my pullover. I did not put any ribbing anywhere because when I first started the pullover, the neckline seemed fairly small. So I thought it would be too much to put a ribbing in. But now that I finished the pullover and everything's pulling down, it's grown quite a bit. So I am still thinking of maybe crocheting around after I've washed it. I don't know yet. You can sort of see that it has raglan increase lines. They're not quite as obvious as they are with knitted pullovers, I think. On the back, you can see that I changed direction here. So everything is knit in the round, is crocheted in the round, but you do not crochet in the same direction. You always turn round and crochet back, and that's because of the stitch pattern. It wouldn't come out this way if you kept going in the same direction. Then there's no turning round here because that were the sort of short rows to bring the back higher. And then for the front and back, I changed directions here. So underneath this arm, you can see the colors not matching. On this side, they match, they run through. And yeah, and I didn't put any ribbing anywhere, so just left the edges the way they are. Again, with the sleeves, you can see the colors don't match because I kept turning my work. But I'm really happy. I'm really happy with the size of the pullover. It's not very long, but I quite like this length. As I said, maybe I'll put something around the neck, but I won't put the ribbing that's crocheted sort of like this and then crocheted to the edge. I'm not going to do that. If I find the neckline grows too much after the pullover's been washed, I will just crochet round, maybe 1 or 2 rounds to pull it in a little bit. But otherwise, I'm pretty sure I'll leave the edges the way they are. I used 8-ply sock yarn by MKal. Pullover and sock yarn is what it says, but you know what I mean. So yeah, it's a quite a warm pullover because it's a fairly thick yarn, and the crochet makes it fairly dense. I used a 5.5 millimeter needle, which is a bit bigger than the yarn is recommended for, to make it less stiff so that it's not too tight. Yeah, and as I said, I'm really happy. Now I'm looking forward to washing it. I won't block it. I'll just, maybe I'll block it slightly to be, no, I don't think I'll block it. No, I want to pull it apart too much. I'll lay it down and I'll let it dry and I'll see what it looks like and how it fits afterwards. And then I'm still planning to wearing this next week. The weather's not too good at the moment, so I can wear a warm pullover, and yeah, and then you can see what it looks like on me. So that was the first finished object, and then the second finished object is the beloved bonnet by Tin Can Knits that I knit out of the alpaca silk yarn by Hansa Farm, and I got a little friend of mine to help model the hat. So this is the it's supposed to be a knitted dog. I don't really think he looks very dog-like, but it's just this stuffed animal that I knit some time ago, and I realized that his hat has the right size to be modeling this hat. So now you can see here are the I-cords. I started with one of them, then I knit increases, and then I knit to the top, and then I did decreases on the other side, finished with the I-cord. And because of the short rows that are incorporated into the pattern, this garter stitch band is a lot shorter and fits round the back of the hat. And then this I-cord is this garter band is a lot longer and fits round the face. And the baby that I knit this for is due, I think, in 3 weeks' time. So I hope it will fit her and the parents will like it. So yeah, and then there's one more thing that I wanted to show you. I said when I finish the hat, I will also show the knitted hexagon cardigan again. Yeah, I knit this, and I also filmed a tutorial on how to knit a hexagon cardigan, and then I showed the finished cardigan in the tutorial video, but not washed and blocked. I just showed it the way it came off my needles, and I probably showed, yeah, I think I also showed it in the proper video as a finished object, but it wasn't washed and blocked. And I promised to show the cardigan once it's been washed and blocked, once I finish the hat that's supposed to go with it. And at first I wanted to knit the hat out of one of these colors, but then a friend of mine, she knit a hat in the red yarn to go with the cardigan, and I knit this hat, and I think the colors go together, so I will be giving those two away together, but I think the cardigan will fit later than the hat, but doesn't matter. Anyway, this is the cardigan that I knit and finished several weeks ago, and it was a bit, yeah, it didn't look perfect after it was knit. It needed the washing and blocking, and I actually pulled this in lengthwise a little bit just to give it a bit of a better shape, and it's more it lies flat now. It looked a bit bumpy after I finished knitting it, but now I'm really, really happy with the way it looks, and I can't wait for the little baby to wear it one day. So I don't think she'll fit into it straight away, but hopefully at some point. Yeah, that's all the finished objects for today. Then on to works in progress, and still I only have one sock on my needle at the moment, but as I said, the sock madness is going to change that probably fairly soon. And I'm still knitting on the Acorn socks by Tin Can Knits out of the Westfalen Wolle. This was the finished sock, and last time I think I had only knit the ribbing and a few rounds, and I showed it to you before I did any of the cables. Now I'm halfway through the third round of cabling. This side I did not manage to knit yet, so again this looks rather a bit wider, and then as soon as I put the cables in, things come closer together again. I need 4 rounds, four repeats of the cables, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I can start the heel, and then at some point knit the foot of the sock. So only sock, waiting for the sock madness to keep going. Then the next project is the Line Dance Mystery Knit Along. So the 4th clue has come out, and now we know what the loop, how the loop is going to be put together and what it's going to look like when it's finished. I haven't actually seen any photos yet of her finished loop, so I'm not quite sure when the mystery is going to be officially lifted. So and also I don't know if everybody wants to see what I've done so far. What I have done so far is I finished clue 3, I've started clue 4, and I'm going to show you how things are going to work out, but then there's one little twist, one little surprise that I'm not going to share yet. I'll share that as soon as I've finished the project, which is hopefully going to be next week, but we'll see. Okay, if you want to look away now. I'm going to show what I have. So you already know clue 1, you know clue 2, you know clue 3 started here and I was knitting down that way, and now clue 3 ended right at this point, and now clue 4 is sort of going backwards. And so I finished with this color and I started repeating this color, and then I will go on and repeat the whole way up to here. And then what I will do is I will use the live stitches with which I come up here, and they will be knit together with these stitches in a 3 needle bind off, and then the cowl is going to look like this. So this is going to be the front and this is going to be the back. And I think it's a very clever way of doing things. I really like it. So now I understand why the main color is the main color, because it's going to sit right here and will sort of be the focus of everything. And then you have some contrast colors here. You have this color here, and this will sit right in the back. And okay, I'm not showing anything anymore. And as I said, there's one more clue, one more surprise that was in the clue 4 that I thought was really interesting, and I will talk about that next week. I hope I'll get all of clue 4 done until then, and yeah, I'll really make an effort, because I do want to talk about this twist, about this surprise a lot. Okay, the next project is should be the double knit Remember cowl, but again, that was the one that I didn't manage to knit on last week, but I crocheted on the summer pullover. So I crocheted 2 big squares out of the book Granny Square Patchwork by Shelley Husband, and they are going to be the front and back of my pullover. I'm not going to show them today, but I'll show you my plan for my sleeves. And I decided that I'm going to knit 4 of the squares in size 2. So these are the 7 patterns that are in the book, and I'm going to pick 4 of them. The first one I did is the Obeyed square. It's that one. Oops. And I finished crocheting that, and I'll show that to you now. So this is the Obeyed square. It's a fairly simple one. It's a bit of a lacy one, and I use that to measure if it's going to be enough for half a sleeve, and I've decided it is enough. And that means I will have 1 square here, 1 at the back, and then 1 here and 1 at the back. So 4 squares in this side should make 1 sleeve. It's probably not going to be a very long sleeve, but this is supposed to be a summer pullover. It doesn't have to have really long sleeves, and but I like the size, and I'm going to pick, I'm not 100% sure which of the squares to do for the sleeve. I would really like to have this one because I really like the flower, and I both like the persnickety and the shine square, and I think I'll have 2 of those 3 for the upper arm, and then I will have the obeyed and probably the pretender square for the lower arm. So I'll have the more the slightly heavier squares up on the sleeve, and the more lacy, the more open ones at the lower end. And so far I finished the square except for the last round, and the last round is only single crochet US terms or double crochet British terms. So I didn't do that, thinking I might do the 2 lower squares a slightly fewer rounds than the upper arm, so that I have very slightly different square width for the sleeves in the 4 squares. And then for the other sleeve, I'm going to crochet 1 square in size 5, because the size 5 squares are exactly or the side of the size 5 square is twice the length of one of these squares, and that means you need 4 squares to make up one of these squares. And I'll show you the patterns. These are the size 5 patterns, and I think I'm going to crochet D'Artagnan. I do like a lot of them, but I really like the D'Artagnan pattern, and it starts off round, just like one of my front and back pieces, and also like this one, and I kind of like that theme. And so probably this square is going to be the other sleeve, so I'll just fold it in half, and it should have the same length and width as these 4 squares. That's the plan, and let's see how far I get this week. So that's the crochet summer pullover, the crochet winter pullover. I've already shown you, it's my finished object. Then I continued knitting on the skirt. So that's the Evenstar shawl pattern, and I excuse me, I did not do the beginning of the shawl, so I left that out, and I started with so many stitches, so I knew I could fit inside and I could wear it as a skirt. And I put 2 extra cables in just to try and show the whole thing a bit. So if you wanted to knit the shawl, this sort of gives you an idea what the shawl would look like. And if I fold it in half, it gives you an idea of what the skirt is going to look like. So now this looks like a nice shorter skirt. It's not a mini skirt anymore, but it's not long yet. And I really like the way it looks. And now I'll show you the pattern. And I told you that I kept repeating the same 4 rounds for this bit. And then I was supposed to repeat it 6 times. I only did 5 repeats. And I was so happy to finally be doing something else. And then I looked at the rounds on top, and I realized that the next 2 rounds were exactly the same that I had knit before. And it was only in round 3 that something changed, and that change involved some increases. So now I have even more stitches than before. But if you look closely, you can see that the lace pattern here, it sort of goes straight until here, and now it's sort of coming together. And the lines from the knit through the back loop, the twisted stitches, they are not going straight up anymore, but here are the increases that I made, and now these lines are sort of going outwards this way and inwards this way, and then these are going to look like, I think they are going to look like windows if you hold them this way up. So it's very interesting, and then a new pattern emerges here, and that's going to be the main pattern at some point. So it's really interesting. I love knitting on this. I love the yarn, and I can't wait to have to finish that skirt someday. Won't be anytime soon, but yeah, I just enjoy knitting on this. So that's a skirt. And then the other really big project is the dress I'm knitting. So lots of very feminine clothes. And this is the special yarn that I bought in Hamburg at the yarn factory. And the pattern is Mamaki by Nicolor. And I just continued on the sleeve. So I first knit quite a bit straight so that the sleeve wouldn't get too tight. And then I started the decreases and I continued doing decreases. I think, oops, you can see the decreases here. You can sort of see them. I did the way the stitches are decreased, I did as per pattern, and I just knit one more round in between the decreases than the pattern calls for, just because I like that ratio of decreases. Yeah, so I'm hoping to finish the sleeve soon. Not promising for it to happen this week, but that's the my next goal is to finish that sleeve so I don't have to try it on all the time, and then I can just breeze through the second sleeve at some point. Okay, that's the dress. Then I added a few stripes to the squiggle and stripe shawl that I am knitting for a friend. It's a Stephen West pattern, and I'm using this very soft and nice alpaca, brushed alpaca yarn by Hansa Farm, and I added another 1.5 stripes. So last week I was in the middle of the dark green stripe. I finished that stripe, added the next beige stripe, and I think if I remember correctly, I am supposed to knit every color 6 times. So 6 of those blocks. 1, 2. I finished 2. I've started the 3rd, and if I remember correctly, it'll be 6 of those blocks. And then the middle part will be done, and then I'll have to add the 2 side pieces. Yeah. One interesting fact about the pattern, I quite like the fact that you can't really see the increases and decreases that form the waves, and I hope the short rows are also rather invisible, so that's really cleverly done. But what you have to do is you keep counting stitches. You have to count to here and to there, and then with the red stripes you have to do a lot of counting, and for some reason I kept getting things wrong. So I don't think any 2 stripes have ever been the same, maybe except for the first and last. I think that were the only 2 where everything worked out. And with all the other stripes, at some point things weren't working out, and I just fudged things around, and I just increased and decreased the stitches where I needed them. But I'm quite surprised. I'm usually rather good with counting and with numbers, but for some reason I keep getting things wrong with this. But it's not obvious, you can't tell, it's still very nice, and I'm just trying to concentrate a little more now when I knit this, so I'm not knitting if the movie gets too exciting and I really want to pay attention. So I try to knit this when something uninteresting happens on TV or wherever I am. So that's that. And then the last project for today is not the knit along, because I talk about that in a minute, but just to remind you of that beautiful book, what's the English title? Evolution by Susan Crawford. And just to remind you, I'm knitting the Lanatus pullover, which in her version looks like this. And I am in the middle of this motif now, and this is what it looks like. And I still love this project so much. So last week I'd finished that motif. I finished this little one, which again looks so different depending on where in the pullover you're looking. There's somewhere where they're really red, and then some bits where there's no red at all. So funny. Then I did another increase round, and I started the next color motif, and yeah, very, very happy with how this is progressing. This is also something I will have to try on a lot. I think I talked about using a different gauge last week, and I realized I won't be able to knit all the rounds that are in the yoke, and I probably won't want to do all the increase rounds. So this is something that I knit a motif, try on, do increases, try on. But yeah, you know by now that I love trying my knits on to make sure they really fit the way I want them to fit. Yeah, and that was everything. Yeah, the 2-color brioche Haramaki that I'm knitting, I did add a few stitches to it, but not really a lot. And I did try it on, but I'm still trying to make up my mind what to do with it. So hopefully I'll do more this week, and then I'll talk about it more next week. And then that was everything. I knit and crochet last week. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!